see it changing to the best by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So those are some foundations before we start our class. And I don't have to remind you how our righteous predecessors worked so hard to gain knowledge. And let me give you some stories just to bring the issue closer to your mind. One of the Imams of Hadith, Baqi ibn Makhlad, this Imam of Hadith, when he was seeking knowledge, he was living in the land of Al-Andalus, Andalusia, where Spain and Portugal is, the Iberian Peninsula. He heard about Imam Ahmad. Imam Ahmad is living where? In Baghdad, in Iraq. So notice the distance. He said, let me go to Iraq and seek knowledge from Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He walked on his feet from Al-Andalus all the way to Iraq. When he arrived to Iraq, he did not heard about the trial that Imam Ahmad had gone through. That because of the Khalq al-Quran, the Mubtadi'ah brought an issue that the Quran, Allah's statement is created. But Allah did not create His own words. Allah does not create His own attributes, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Because of this issue, Imam Ahmad was forced not to make any study circles. Because he stood against this statement, this false, wrong statement that Allah's words are created. Allah does not create His words. Allah speaks them, subhanahu wa ta'ala, in a matter that befits Him, the exalted He is. So when he arrived to Baghdad, he asked about Imam Ahmad. They said Imam Ahmad is not allowed to give any classes in hadith and so on. He said, well, I came from a very long distance. How can I go back without gaining the knowledge that I was hoping for? They said, go to his house and try to talk to him. He went to Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah. And he talked to Imam Ahmad, I came from a very long distance. He told him, where? Africa? He said, way beyond than that. I came from Al-Andalus, where I had to cross the sea to get to Africa. He said, well, if this is the case with you, and you are serious in seeking knowledge, come every day and dress like a beggar, okay? And knock my door and ask for something to be given to you. And I'll come out, I'll give you something to eat, and I'll give you few ahadith. I will narrate to you few ahadith, and you memorize, and you do this every day until you collect good knowledge. But he said, I have a condition here. You should not go any other study circles, because I don't want people to recognize you. So you just come only for me every day, in this outfit, in this manner, as a beggar. This person, Baqi ibn Makhlad, did that for years. Every day he comes and knocks the door of Imam Ahmad, asks for food, and Imam Ahmad delivers for him one hadith or two. One hadith or two or three, maybe, subhanAllah. Very little. And he does that for years, subhanAllah. Until the fitna of Khalq al-Quran, the creation of the Quran, stopped, and Imam Tawakkil came, and he allowed Imam Ahmad to deliver the knowledge. Once that happened, Imam Ahmad brought Baqi ibn Makhlad, and he told him, this is the true, sincere student of knowledge. Nobody would tolerate seeking knowledge in this manner. To come in this manner for years. So look, at the end, this Baqi ibn Makhlad was one of the Imam of the Hadith who narrated and compiled the greatest and biggest volume of Ahadith. But unfortunately, most of it was lost. But he was the person who collected the most Ahadith in the history of Muhaddithin, the ulama of Hadith, subhanAllah. So you spare effort, you spare time, you sacrifice your wasted time and put great effort for knowledge, Allah will give you. The more you give for the time for the knowledge, knowledge will be given to you by the will and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is one of the great stories, and there are so many stories how the righteous predecessors went through seeking knowledge. Like Abu Hatim al-Razi, one of the great hadith, Imam of Hadith, rahimahullah. He said, when he was 20 years old, he traveled all over the Islamic world on his feet. He was in Al-Iraq area. He said, I went from Baghdad to Kufa, Kufa to Baghdad, so many times I don't recall. And I went from Baghdad to Greater Syria area, so many times. Hems, Dimashq. He went to Egypt. He went up to the Morocco. and came back, and he went from Cairo to Bayt al-Maqdis. He said, I walked for almost 1,000 farsakh. The 1 farsakh is 5 kilos almost, 5,000 kilos on my feet. He said, after I finished 1,000 farsakh, 5,000 kilos, I stopped counting after that. Meaning he continued walking. And he came back to his hometown after 7 years. Walking from one town, one city to another on his feet, collecting knowledge. That's how he became one of the great imams of hadith, rahimahullah. Now we mention his name, we say rahimahullah. So look how seeking knowledge, collecting knowledge leads to not only reward of your time, but your knowledge remains and stays. And people carries that knowledge from time to time, from era to an era. And whenever your name is mentioned, people they say rahimahullah, because he has delivered so many. So once you understand that this life has a purpose, and the purpose is not to dwell eternally in this life, to work for the hereafter, then you need to collect good enough provision for you for the hereafter. You need to collect as much as you can. You sleep, you get busy with this life, with your job, with your kids, with your husbands and wife, you lose so much. You lose so much. So that's why set a foot from now on that our life is going to be different. We'll be committed that we are sincere about living a life that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and meets the style of the prophets and those who carried their message after them.